Hi, my name is Keith L. Murphy, and I'm doing a quick video to show just how quick and fast low-code is. This accompanies my blog that I wrote on the same topic, so there'll be a link to that blog in the description below. What we're looking at is a mock email, so you can imagine if the business emailed us with this request. Essentially, right now a business group is using spreadsheets to keep track of employee data, and after some issues with multiple people saving files, some data was lost, and now they don't want to do this anymore, and now they want an application to handle this. So they're going to give us a spreadsheet with all the data on it. They want that into a SQL database, and they want it to be surfaced on a web app that's going to show all that data. So we can use the spreadsheet's columns as the columns of a table in a database, and then we want to just simply surface that in an application. So they want the first screen to have a table with that data and have it all be searchable, have it go different pages if needed, if there's too much data, and they want it to be able to click into a row and then be able to edit that data maybe on a screen with a form or something along those lines. And they also want the ability to not only edit that data, but to create more rows going forward. So I asked a couple of people, how long would this take to do in the technologies that you are comfortable with, wherever that is, if that's Angular, if that is React, or just doing a simple C# app, whatever you wanted to do, how fast could you get that done? And generally people said between 3 and 4 hours or so. So I'd like to show you how fast it can actually be using low code. Okay, so I am in the development environment for OutSystems, the low-code development platform called OutSystems, and I am going to click on New Application. It's going to ask me, do I want a mobile app or a web app? I'm going to pick a web app, hit Next, and it's going to ask which template would I like. This is like the look and feel of my app, and so I'm just going to pick one at random. Let's go with Dublin, and I'll hit Next. And now it wants me to fill in my application's name, so this will just be app name. This is just, I had caps lock now. This will just be app name, as there is just a test. And I am going to, I can pick a color. I'm actually just going to choose a random logo I found off the internet. And kind of fun, this color from this logo actually is going to be trapped down here, and it's going to use that color throughout my app. Anyway, I'm going to hit Create App, and I'll hit Create Module, and I'll go right into it. So this is where developers create apps in OutSystems. So my template comes with a page already built. That's what we're looking at right now. We actually don't even need that. I'm just going to go into the flow where it uses that and just delete that right out. Then I'm going to go into the data tab, and underneath database there's an option to actually import an entity or an object in OutSystems from Excel. So I'm going to click on that, and here is my spreadsheet. By pulling that in, it's going to create the table and create all of the columns from the table, as well as create all of the CRUD functions, the create, update, and delete functions, and so on for that object that I created, and pull in all the rows as the data. So now that's all going to live in my SQL database. So it's going to do all that for me, which is really, really nice. Now here on the flow, if I just pull this table in, it's going to create a page for me. If I double click on that, it's automatically going to create the search functionality, the pagination. It's also going to create the table of the object here. So it's only one row here just to give us an idea of what it will look like, but all those rows will be there once we actually run it. Also interesting, if I go back into the main flow again and pull in the employee table one more time, it's going to create a second screen. If I go into that, this is going to be that form of if I clicked on one particular row on the table on the first screen. Also, one other interesting thing, let's go back to the first screen. By doing that twice, it also linked the first column for each row to automatically go to that particular form when I click on it. I'll show you what I mean if that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The only other thing I have to do is a couple more just housekeeping things. I have to go and do this, and what that means is when the page, when the app opens, it's going to start on this particular screen. And then just so we don't have to deal with things like users and roles and logins and stuff, I'm going to start these off as anonymous. So now I'm just going to go ahead and click the one-click publish button, and what that's going to do is that is going to kick off our build process, and so you'll see that in the bottom left here. It's going to store a new version on my demo environment, my development environment. It's going to generate and compile all optimized ASP.NET C# code and create any SQL scripts that it's going to need. And then finally, it's going to update the SQL Server database model and deploy that web application to IIS. So it's doing all of that right now so I can ultimately test this application and make sure that it works. Another thing that it's doing is taking all of that data from the spreadsheet and actually putting it in SQL, and so we never actually have to use the spreadsheet ever again. So that's just a one-time thing, and after this first build, we'll never touch that spreadsheet again. So now let's go ahead and test it. That'll just open up another monitor. It's going to pop open here. And because it's an IIS application, it does have to wake up. That's just like anything else. So here we go. Here's our first page as you open. Here's all of our various people. And I can click on any of those. Like I can click on Heather Sherman here. And I am served the Heather Sherman page. I can actually edit this data. I just change that to Murphy. I can hit save. And now she is Heather Murphy. And I can also go and create something new. So I can say Alfred Pennyworth. Spelling is important. Male Butler. And I don't know where Gotham is. I was going to say Gotham. And hit save. And now that's going to appear as well. So that's our test. And so that's how long it would take to do in OutSystems versus the 3 and 4 hours using other technologies. I hope that was helpful. If you have any other questions, throw them in the comments. I would love to hear more about your questions and thoughts about low code. Thanks a lot.